the teaser was the really the big idea that Snoop was going to, on his own channel, just give a heartfelt message that he stopped smoking and just, let that sit out there and watch the world burn down. Um, and then we had to wait over the weekend before we revealed the truth, and hold your breath for a weekend, because Snoop's going to be seen somewhere by somebody smoking something.
Welcome to OGs and Aunties, where we spotlight iconic advertising creatives in their second act, proving that creativity doesn't come with an expiration date. I'm your host, Lewis Williams. It's an honor and a privilege to introduce today's guest. His career is defined by reinvention. From Chief Creative Officer to Chief Client Officer to CEO, he brings a rare mix of creative vision and business strategy to the Martin Agency. Under his leadership, the agency earned back-to-back Adweek Agency of the Year honors, Ad Age Agency of the Year, and made Fast Company's most innovative companies 3 years running. He's led breakthrough work for brands like UPS, Geico, CarMax, DoorDash, and Oreo. I had the privilege of working briefly with him early in his career, and I was impressed by his creativity along with his great creative instinct. It's been fantastic to see his brilliant career continue to unfold. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm honored to present today's guest, Mr. Danny Robinson. Danny, welcome to OGs and Aunties, my man.
Thank you, my friend Lewis, my brother Lewis Williams. Good to see you, man.
Nice seeing you too, man. So, Dan, I'm going to jump right into this, and this is kind of really funny. So you're kind of hybrid. You're a hybrid. So OGs and Aunties, usually for us who's kind of like nice words like timed out, or we've kind of hit overqualified status, but we still have this yearning to stay involved and be creative. Now for you, you and I both got gray hair, so we've both hit OGs.
Yeah.
But so far as you're still working. You're still working every day. So you're a hybrid. So maybe in a few years, you're going to have to come back. But right now, let's talk about where you are and why you feel okay being on the show so far.
Well, I'm on this show because you asked me, and I will tell anybody if Lewis needs for me to do something, I'm there. And at some point in this conversation, I'm going to have to flip this script a little bit and talk about you, because as you know, and I've told you, the time we intersected the first times was career altering for me, and an amazing. I have a story I'm going to have to tell, because you entered my life at a time that I needed you. You didn't know that. I didn't know it either, but it turned out to be true. So other than you asked me, why am I here? I certainly consider myself an OG in that while I still may be working, I'm certainly the O in the OG. And a gangster, there's a little bit of that too. If you're going to use the real definition of OG, I'm still here, Lewis. And I will tell anybody who asks, I'm still here doing what I'm doing. And I felt this way probably the past 3 or 4 years, that when I meet people who look like me and who are in the stage of their career that I was in when I was in my late 20s and 30s, and was most of the time the only brother in a room, when I was on the marketing side, when I got into the advertising side, and didn't really have a lot of people to model myself after, at least, with that were brown, that were black. Mm-hmm. I meet people who say to me, and when they talk about their careers and what they want to be, what they want to do, that they see someone who looks like them, who's a place that they might want to be. So I'm still in it because I'm uncomfortable with the idea of the words role model. A little like Charles Barkley said, I'm not a role model. But I understand my responsibility in this position, and I'm still doing it because I want to give people who really are love this business, who are interested in this business, who want to be in it, to believe that they can, and then there are, in theory, unlimited possibilities. But that
That's
there's at
great.
least
That's
somebody
great.
they
I
can
love
look
it.
at and say, well, there is at least one
Hey,
person that I've met. At least I
that's
know there's
what.
more, but at least one.
This one.
Yeah.
So, Danny, to that, that's a really good answer. And here's the thing, too. Now, you went from creative to now you CEO, which
Yeah.
is fantastic. And so, give us that journey because I think you started actually on the brand side. So
Yeah.
you have a lot of roles. Just, can you give us this journey to see how you're sitting in this seat today?
Yeah. Well, my first job out of grad school was I was going to be a marketer. I was going to be a client, and I was a client. I was just a very bad
Okay.
client. I was not that. That was a job that I thought I understood when I was in school, and I think my perception of it was more like what we do in advertising than it is what marketers do on the marketing side. So I was
Hmm.
excited about the idea of working for a brand, but I didn't really know what that meant until I got into the job. So I started off as a brand manager and worked in what was then General Foods, now Kraft, right? And I was
Hmm.
working on Raisin Bran and Grape Nuts, and I was a brand manager on cereal brands. Just had no idea how much of the job was not about what we do in the ad business. So much of it was finance and shelving allocations and sales force and business projections and all the things I am bad at. And um, I got an MBA, so I was good enough to get through school, but school and application are not always the same thing.
Same
Um,
thing.
so I wasn't good, and they told me I
Hmm.
wasn't good, and they fired me. So that was very clear I wasn't good. But what that did was took me on a path of the thing that I was at least thought I was good at during those 2 years I was on the brand side, is when the ad agencies came to visit, I was hyped. It's like, oh, I got excited. I understood it. I was, a first year, second year guy, but I could give feedback. I could take feedback from the agency, and my boss at least recognized that that was a skill I had that maybe it could work in my favor on the advertising side. So
Hmm.
I got kicked out of one place and got pointed to another, and got help from the bosses that fired me to get in interviews with some ad agencies and some really good people,
Cool.
and that started me down this path. So, and I think the leap from that, and I'll skip all the way to what I'm doing now. At least the conversation when we talked about me taking over this role was, well, I have an MBA, so I had a business background. I have worked as a client. I did run my own agency for 7 years, 8 years, as a creative, but at least it was a startup and was exposed to the business side of that. And that why wouldn't it make sense for a creative to lead a company that's about creativity? I mean, it's not
Mm.
such a ridiculous thought when you realize what our product is creative, and
Right.
and
Right.
I have business partners here. I have finance people and people who are way smarter than I am on the side of the things that I do not do well, and that's just about surrounding yourself with people who are better than you, who do fill in your gaps. I'm lucky to have that, and it's the only reason I've had any level of success is I have the right partners.
Oh, great. You know, let's go back to when you and I first got a chance to meet each other. We met
Yeah,
each
man.
other back in when at Leo Burnett,
Yep.
and you spoke about you started your agency of Vigilante with what Mark Rashawn, right? You guys started your agency, and you and I worked together on the Sprint campaign. And we was laughing the other day when we was had a little pre-check-in talk.
Yeah.
But I looked at our barbershop spot, and it's like it's still cool, Daddy, except that he uses a payphone.
Yeah. Well, payphones. We were selling dimes and payphones and phone plans that you got to pay for when you call long distance,
I,
which half of the audience listening won't even know what we're talking about.
I know it. I know it. But here's the thing now, Danny. Talk to me about how did Vigilante start with Mark? How did you
Yeah.
guys start Vigilante and why? And then how did that relationship with Leo Burnett begin?
Yeah. Well, Mark and I became business partners, but we didn't know each other when we first got together. So it was a
Mm,
freelance job. Mark and I were freelancing. We both had jobs, but we got a call from Keith Clinkscales, who was the president and CEO of Vibe magazine. You know,
Okay.
the one of two urban music magazines. That and Vibe and the Source were the Bibles.
Mm-hmm.
And Leo Burnett contacted Keith because they were looking for some partners to help them with the Reebok client. Right. So Leo Burnett had Reebok. And it was an interesting conversation we had because Leo Burnett had Reebok, and it was the outlier, I think, at the time of the kind of clients Leo Burnett had. Leo Burnett had Maytag and Kellogg's and Coke and kind of
Yeah.
these middle America brands, Hallmark, and then they had Reebok, which maybe when they got it was not the brand it started to become. But we're talking about sneaker brand. It was about an audience that looked different than the audiences of the other clients, that the majority of the clients that Leo Burnett had. And I think Leo Burnett was smart, looking for some resources to help them understand an urban audience, brown and black people,
Mm-hmm.
major metropolitan cities.
Mm-hmm.
It was a culture that they maybe didn't understand fully, and they were looking to get resources. And they called Keith because Keith was tapped into urban music scene in particular, but just hip hop in general. And Keith
Yeah.
called me and he called Mark because he knew us from other lives, and he put us together and we pitched alongside of Leo Burnett. We pitched to save the Reebok account. It was
Oh.
kind of the final pitch.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay. Cool.
that was what we were brought in to do, and we put together this road show. And Keith was instrumental in this. We put together this road show to show Leo Burnett what Reebok could be, and it was the opposite of what Nike was. They wanted to compete against Nike, and we told them at the time, you can't compete against Nike. You have no street cred. You have no street
Yeah.
credibility. There's songs about you, there are rap songs about you, talking about how terrible you are. You can't just go out and say that we're the same thing. So we had this whole platform that they needed to gain street credibility. We told them, instead of signing athletes, you need to sign entertainers and rap stars. And instead of having a Reebok store that looks like Nike Town, you need a store in the middle of Harlem that is part music shop, part sneaker shop, part barbershop, and it needs to be run by the people in the community. So we showed them this whole, and we did this whole roadshow.
Mm-hmm.
We put them on a bus and took them from borough to borough. Had them meet the track masters to hear what the music for Reebok could sound like. So we did this big show, and
Oh.
yeah, you never saw any of that, did you?
No, I'm just. Man, it's the first time I'm hearing any of this,
That's
man.
crazy. I mean, you were there. You should have been part of this, but I didn't know anything then. Um, and it just so happened that Rick Fisdale, who was the chief creative
Mm-hmm.
officer and president, was heavily involved and saw what we did and was really interested in it because it was a different dynamic and a different thought process and a different way of thinking about pitching and a different audience than Leo Burnett was really used to going after. And he asked Mark and me the day before the pitch if we wanted to start an agency to do this for them. Maybe for Reebok. He said, but we have other clients who might need this, and you guys could probably go out and get your own clients. So it was that pitch, and then having somebody high up seeing it happen that put the whole thing in motion. And then Keith and Rick and Leo Burnett and Mark and I made a deal and agreed we're going to open an agency.
Oh man. Okay. Well, Danny, thanks for that story, man.
Yeah, I just assume you were in the building, that you already knew that story. I don't know why you weren't working on the Reebok account for that matter, but we can have that conversation later.
Well, that's a whole nother podcast. So Danny, okay, that's really great. Okay, so the Margins Agency is we fight for invisibility.
Yeah, we
Right?
fight invisibility. Yes.
We fight
Invisibility. Yeah.
Invisibility.
Yes.
You know I'm art director, Danny, so
I know.
I mean,
Sorry. We fight invisibility. That's right. It's okay.
And thank you. So even you kind of tapped on Vigilante starting, Leo Burnett tapping you guys about culture, right? And right now everybody is talking about you got to be in culture, you got to be in culture. Now we're talking about that was some years back, right?
Yeah.
That was some years back. So you really know what that is. Can you talk about why everybody's sort of like in the last few years have kind of woken up to said, okay, culture is important. And how have you all used culture in your fight for invisibility mantra? Because
Yeah.
ever since you've been there, I would see some of the work come out of the Martin agency. I said, I think Danny is in there. It's like some of the work that's come out of there. I've kind of felt that. So it seems like you carried that culture important banner with you. So can you talk about how that sort of has been incorporated into the Martin agency and all?
Sure. I think when I was hired in 2004. Mike Hughes hired me. I think Mike hired me because of, well, I know in part because of the work that I did at Vigilante. And I think he had a similar thought as Rick Fisdale, is that there's something that some people do that is different than the majority of the people we have at our agency, that is important and interesting and feels like a change and something we need. And I think he hired me in part because he saw that and probably wanted me to bring some of that thing into the agency. The difference is when I came, they didn't have clients that were really looking for what we did. And it didn't necessarily have a mindset that would allow it to easily happen. I still tried to bring the things that I bring based on who I am and what I know. But it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't until um, fairly recently, and Kristen Cavallo was a champion of this idea of fighting invisibility. It wasn't until fairly recently that that idea and that mantra became a thing that we embodied and believed. And it was in part because statistically, brands that are culturally relevant, just we talk about business, sell better, do a better job of getting people to pay attention, do a better job of people considering to buy things. It isn't. I think the
Mm-hmm.
chase for culture is because culture is a gateway to actually having people make decisions on the things they buy and the things they do. And culture is
Mm-hmm.
nothing but just, I mean, they're values people have, and there's language and symbols, and it's things that unify groups. It isn't new. Um, it is new in practice, and people are starting to understand, and particularly because media is so fragmented, you kind of have to find pockets of people and groups of people that share similar thinking and behavior, and talk to them, because the days of just shotgun communications, other than
Mm-hmm.
the Super Bowl, are mostly gone. You got to reach people. You got to reach people in groups of people, and the way to do that is to understand, to find a culture and find the culture that they belong to. And Vibe magazine and the Source were magazines about culture,
Yep.
about hip hop culture. So that's not a new
Yep.
thing. And once we've decided that's our mantra and that's our mission, and you make it what you do every day, it's, you would be surprised some of the work that has come out of here. Who has made that work? You could stereotype it and typecast it, but you'd be surprised the faces behind work that um, people who look the same don't always think the same, who don't always have the same experiences,
Right.
and
Right.
you work with cats at Leah Burnett um, that look like you and think very different than you. Work with cats who look very different than you, and you have a lot of similarities. I know that because I've met them.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so it just once we decided it was our mission and what we were going to do and who we were going to be, then it was just a matter of repeating it, making sure that's the kind of work we did, uh, and to be known for it. And when you pitch a client, tell them that's what you're if you're looking for us, that's what you're going to get.
Okay. So, Danny, you've done some, a lot of great work, but I just want to talk about a piece of work you did that I just freaking love, and
What is
that's
that?
Heineken. Heineken the Nod.
Oh, the nod. Yes, the
The
nod.
Nod. The Nod. It was so funny, like as a black father. So my son, little, I remember I was teaching him little black father things, like I teach him how to nod. He like nod up or nod
Nod
down.
down.
It's like, but I just love that spot, and I joke with you, it's like you're a writer, but you never said a word. But it's just so when you talk about culture, and it just I just just talk about that spot a little bit, because I just love that. It was just really fantastic.
Well, I mean, that's a prime example of the definition of culture. That's a signal. It's a thing that
Mm-hmm.
that a group understands. And I used to tell people all the time. I go to a city I've never been to before, and I'm walking down the street and I pass a brother, and we will nod. We will acknowledge, not everybody, but we'll acknowledge each other. We don't know each other, but it's a. So I just brought that experience to this idea that the nod was about an unspoken language, and at the core, it was about once you got to the beer part of the story, it was an acknowledgement that you don't need to say what beer you want. If you're the right cat and you carry yourself the right way and you nod, the bartender knows exactly what beer you're asking for. But before that, the run up was just guys in the club who may or may not know each other saying hello without saying hello.
Yeah.
One nod meant one thing different than another nod. There was a guy with a girl holding her hand in one of the scenes, and his nod was not just hello. It was you know what's going on here nod. So that even the nods have hidden meaning. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it was I'm a writer, and yeah, there were no words, but I also had no art director when I did that. I was the only person. We didn't have a staff yet. We we had accounts, and we didn't have people. Um, so yeah, I wrote it as a story, and the tagline is all about the beer.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that had to be the payoff, but the story was there's an unspoken language that a bunch of people understand clearly, and that's who we're talking to, the people who understand
Yeah.
that language. And I think there are
Yeah.
people who see it and can identify it, who understand it, may not speak that language but understand it. So in that way, it's universal. But yeah, I had to create something that, and then somebody else made it right. Because the story I tell about you is I was not ready to be a creative head at an agency when I became a creative head of an agency. I hadn't spent that was my first real job in an ad agency. My first job
Oh, okay.
creating commercials. It was all new. Um, and if you weren't there telling me you commercial can't be 2 pages long and be 30 seconds, I would have had some trouble. Uh, so Leo Burnett was a godsend in that they were because we had no one, they helped us. They gave me people like you to help execute ideas that
Mhm.
we had. So we can come up with ideas all day, but knowing somebody and having a team who knows how to execute, having the
Mhm.
resources to get the right directors and all that was all foreign to me. So
Okay. Okay.
so I will take credit only for the writing of that idea and for some art direction. I was in the room helping art direct because you had to get the nod right. But, a lot of people were responsible for making that happen.
Dan, it doesn't matter if it's like a bunch of pages, but the thing is that is it an idea in there, and that's what you had, what you haven't had, and all that stuff has been really great. But I just love anybody is listening. It's still on YouTube. Just type in Heidek and the Nod. It's still coming up. People still commenting on it. But
So,
you know what I love, man, the double nod at the end. When he saw the lady, the double nod, and to the bartender, I know. I go like, gosh. that was I just love this spot, man. Kudos for that.
thank you, man.
Okay, so we went in the back, but let's talk about Snoop D-O-double-G.
Oh,
You know,
Snoop.
Snoop Dogg. It's really interesting when we talk about culture, right? And
Yeah,
these boys from Compton and Dre and all those boys, and Snoop has become quite the influencer. You know what I mean?
right.
I go back to Martha Stewart, and always kind of laugh when that meme around with Martha and Snoop, and they say which one is the
Which one?
felon.
And it was a picture of Trump on the wall, and it said two of these people are felons.
Well, yeah, to these, and
Yeah,
they updated.
and it was
That
Mark
was just so
and Donald, and it was not Snoop, right?
yeah, Donald. It's like, yeah. And so he's quite an influencer, Super Bowl with Dre, the Olympics, the Paris over. He had this whole thing at the
Yeah,
Olympics, and he's gonna do the Winter Olympics this year,
yeah,
right? So guys did this really great campaign for Solo Stove, Smokeless Grill. This whole went viral, giving up smoke,
yeah.
right? Very bold, very effective. Let's talk about that. Let's talk that a little bit. Now, I'm not quite sure, but I think I read in the trades with all the success, the little people on the brand side, not little people, some people on the brand side kind of sort of, but whatever you can give us
Yeah,
a backstory on that, and then you got to tell me because I just noticed him when I saw it the other day that he had a Death Row jacket on in that. So anyway, just whatever you can share with us, great to hear.
uh, yeah, that was an interesting. So Solar Stove was a client. They had it was a smokeless fire pit, right? So the problem
Hmm.
with fire pits is you throw in the wood, it's great heat, but there's smoke, and somebody always ends up sitting in the smoke. So they had this smokeless fire pit, and the team had a bunch of ideas, um, and they had one thing on the wall, a picture of Snoop, and I think it all said I gave up smoke, and that was it. And that was they weren't even sure that they were going to present that because they weren't sure that anybody would buy that. uh,
Uh-huh.
any client or Snoop for that matter. But they presented, it was the last thing they presented, and the client just pretty much said, well, that's it. That's the idea. And the client himself was so excited. He's the one who made the deal. He's the one who reached out and got Snoop and made the deal. He was that excited.
Oh
He
wow.
said, this has to happen. At some point, we were telling him no. We were trying to get him to not do it. Um, in hindsight, that wasn't a good idea. We were wrong. He was right. And for a lot of reasons, and budget was one of them. We didn't think you guys don't have that money, but found the money anyway. So we had this idea. It was really simple. The teaser was the really the big idea that Snoop was going to on his own channel just give a heartfelt message that he stopped smoking and just let that sit out there and watch the world burn down. Um, and then we had to wait over the weekend before we revealed the truth and hold your breath for a weekend because Snoop's going to be seen somewhere by somebody smoking something. Uh, he had a concert and said, "Oh God, it's not going to work. He's going to blow it." He believed in the idea so much. He said, I'm not going to smoke in public." He didn't smoke at the show. He said, "I want
Oh
this thing to
wow.
work." So he was all in, and a lot of success was because Snoop was all in. And then we
Wow. Cool.
revealed he wasn't giving up smoke. He was giving up smoke in fire pits and did round two. Um, yeah, the story behind the story, and we did a whole. So we got there's a headline somewhere or headline that said the idea didn't work and the CMO got fired,
Right.
uh, and that's mostly fake news. See, the
Okay.
CMO got fired, but the idea that it didn't work isn't accurate. And we actually did a video to explain what really happened. Um, the short of it is, this is a $500 to $600 item,
Hmm.
and the expectation was that you would just do this, and then the next day, the next week, thousands of people would run out and buy a solo stove. I said, well, if it were a can of soda, maybe,
Yeah.
or a
Right.
dollar for $1.50, but you have to people are going to take some time to drop that kind of cash on anything, and it's going to need some follow up, repeated, some direct mail
Yeah.
stuff. So you got to hit them online. You have to get them. We primed them, and our job was to make this thing that nobody knew about famous. And I,
Hmm.
will, to this day, say we did.
You did that.
The day before, nobody's heard of this thing, and the day after, everybody's heard of this thing. That was our job, and I say we did the job well. The part two was now we got to get people to buy them, but that's a part two. That's not a first week. So yeah, by those measures, it wasn't successful. But eventually, if we went back and looked at the numbers, it was incredibly successful for all kinds of metrics. Successful, including sales,
Right.
including the cost to acquire customers, all those things. But that happened later. It's a longer tail than
Yeah.
what was promised by some of the leaders there. So not to be defensive about this idea. The idea did the job, and then
Yeah.
eventually the work that follows, the hard work of getting people to actually buy something, also happened. It just happened later.
It was so funny. I was talking to Kelly, your admin, before she got on,
Yeah,
and she was saying, that you guys shot it at Snoop's house and things
yeah,
like that, and he would take breaks and go write a song. I said, Kelly, you sure that you would take breaks to go write a song?
Yeah, he took.
Or was
He wasn't. He may have written a song, but that's not why he took a break.
that's why he took a break?
Look, I don't know that it's. I don't know. It's probably fine because it's not like Snoop's hiding that he smokes. Um, while he's telling this story about going smokeless, there's a blunt at his foot. I mean, I don't mean figuratively. He would. There's a blunt on the ground during the shoot, and he did take a break, and I know he went and did what he needed to do. But that dude is functionally. He is a he's a functional pothead. He nailed the lines every time, one take,
Yeah.
over and over and over again. He could be as high as he needed to be. That brother delivered, and he's good. He's good.
It's good.
Yeah, yeah.
His appeal is really great because I was talking to someone earlier, and this guy said his mama was looking at the Olympics, and she says,
Uh-huh.
"Who is that Snoop guy? I like him."
What? Oh, yeah. Okay, I understand. I thought you said Snoop's mom was watching. So his mom was
Oh
watching
no,
it.
oh no! This guy's mom was
Yeah,
watching. See,
yeah.
but he just has so much appeal. He's kind of like he's
He
lovable. I
does.
mean, it's great personality.
So now look. Think back. Vigilante started 2000 or 1999, 98. Think about
Okay.
2000. Mark and I spent so much time trying to convince people that people like Snoop, not even Snoop, uh,
Uh-huh.
even less was a thing to consider. That hip hop music was a thing to consider. It wasn't a fad. That it
Yeah.
it resonates across race. That it's not the size of the industry it is because only black people buy rap music.
Right.
That's just say it all the time. That to be a platinum selling album means a whole lot of people are buying your work.
A lot of
And if
people.
every black person bought it, it wouldn't be enough.
Right.
Um, but we spent so much time trying to convince marketers, um, even just to use music. And now I look at every other commercial, every interstitial for every national football, baseball, hockey. You can't you can't escape the culture, and
Yeah.
it's crazy to me how hard it was to even convince people that it was a culture. It was real. It
I
was
I
long
know.
term. Um,
And that's what I was saying earlier, Danny. Is like, yeah, it's like, wow, all of a sudden somebody discovered this thing, and you were saying, yeah. It's like, huh? It's been here all the time.
all the time, all the time, and
Mhm.
it has always been influential.
Yep, always been.
Yeah.
Okay, Dan, I got another virtual moment for you,
Oh.
and it's going to take you back. Not what you get a car, you
Uh,
get a car, you get a car, you get a car. You remember?
yeah, I remember.
How I'll do that. You know what? You should have told me to be in Oprah's audience because I needed a car around about that time, man. So,
I wasn't even there.
are
Um,
you with there?
no, man. So that idea was I don't even know I think I know the genesis. I think the client actually Richter. Hans Richter sounds like a Bond villain. I think that's his real name. At the time, I think it was his idea to give away cars. Our involvement, and I think that, and I know the media company was part of making all that happen. Our involvement was actually getting to the person that got to Oprah to have her agree to do it. So
Okay.
after Mark left, and Larry Woodard became my partner. He was a managing director at the time. He became the CEO and became a partner. He's the one who approached Gail at an airport and told her about this idea to get to Oprah.
Wow.
So by default, we became the agency that was. I mean, it was our brand too. We were
Right.
helping launch the car. So we became involved in our account. People became involved, but I didn't know a lot about it. I didn't think it was a big deal. I mean, I didn't understand how big of a deal it was.
Uh-huh.
Oprah, I understood the scale of Oprah, and that's great. But I was so doing whatever else I was doing at the time that there were the account people were running. You didn't really need creatives because it wasn't an idea that
Right.
required creatives to do anything. It was really account and media. And that when it happened, I was in the agency watching it on television. It didn't even occur to me to go and watch live, and maybe I couldn't. I don't remember.
Mhm.
I regret that. I say
Right.
I'm not sure what was going on in my head. I think I was just consumed with all things
Uh-huh.
startup agency work, life.
Right.
But then that thing happened, and then it happened, right? Then it became a thing.
Yeah.
And I keep telling people, don't. It's great that you associate vigilante with that, but don't associate me with that because I take absolutely no credit for that, other than I was running a vigilante. That's it. I was in proximity, and I will claim it as a milestone for the agency. Um,
Okay.
I just regret that I didn't have the foresight to understand how big that thing really was going to be.
Well, you're guilty through association. You
Yes,
know.
I'll take it. I'll take it. We that was a good calling card for new business. That's for sure.
It's good. Great.
Yeah.
So it's great being honest about that. I mean, that's really
Oh.
set the record straight with a lot of stuff. But that's great. So Danny, in a little while ago, you from the NAACP Award, Image Awards,
Mhm.
you won a couple of awards. The Hollywood International Diversity from the Hollywood International Diversity Film Festival for a little short film you did called Little Ruby.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that? Because I think Martin Agency has an overall sort of
Yeah.
platform for this.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that a little bit?
Sure. I will take credit for that story because I at least wrote that story. Um,
Okay.
so in our mission to fight invisibility, one of the things we encourage people to do is think about how they can bring outside passions to the agency that are in line with the mission. And
Mhm.
there's a really talented writer by the name of Neil Williams here who had an idea, and he said he'd read these bedtime stories to his daughters, and the stories would not be aligned with the things that they were teaching his daughter. That the stories always had a female, was the hero, but always needed a man to save them. That Snow White needed a prince to come in uh, and save her, wake her with a kiss, and he said he read that to his daughter. He said, this guy kissed her without her permission. See, that's not right. So he would read these
Mhm.
stories about these females leads, but they were not really the heroes. Uh, Red Riding Hood was one. Red Riding Hood was eaten by the wolf and needed a woodsman with an axe to come save her. So it was always some guy who had to come in and take care of things. And he said, "That's not what I'm teaching my daughters. I'm teaching my daughters that you are self sufficient. You don't need a guy to save you." Um, so he said, "I want to write stories. I want to take classic fairy tales and reimagine them so that the women are the heroines and the heroes, or the heroines and the stars, uh,
Uh-huh.
and take care of themselves in all these stories." So he brought that idea. He open call to the agency. Anybody who wants to write a story, write a story. We didn't know where it was going to go, but we just wanted to at least get them out. I wrote a story. A handful of people wrote different stories. I picked Little Red Riding Hood as my story. Um, and we wrote them. We then published them as books. So we have a series of these books now.
Hmm.
And then we started making animated shorts out of some of them, and they made one out of Little Ruby
Hmm.
and ended them in the film circuit, and actually got to the place where it was eligible even for an Academy Award nomination. Just didn't get one.
Oh wow.
It got enough
Okay.
wins in the circuit that it was eligible. It was just a story of it was a black girl that wore a hoodie, which is what Little Red Riding Hood did, but hers was a hoodie. Uh,
Hmm.
and the wolf was a predator, was a someone who was uh, preying on her grandmother financially. Was taking advantage of an elderly woman. And so he was the wolf, and she was this math whiz who realized what he was doing and tricked him and uh, got him jailed. So it was the story of Little Red Riding Hood. She was the one who saved the day. So it was that story, and won a few awards. Proud of the NAACP Image Award. That's a nice one to have. Um,
Nice one. Nice
so yeah, it was just another, without having a client, a way to show fighting invisibility. That's people who aren't seen
one.
tell their stories and have different people tell different stories.
It's nice in this business, Dan, when we get a chance to, so often we know we're trying to sell, we're trying to market, but it's nice that you all have a platform like that for your employees, and just you yourself personally to do something that's outside of what kind of car I can sell, what kind of
Yeah,
insurance I can sell. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And then
yeah.
it's really a great business in a role that we get a chance to do that, and it feels good when you're able to do that.
It does, and it energizes your people, right? They get to bring
Yeah.
in passions that they have outside the agency that kind of fuels. And it's still all creativity. Kind of fuels what they do on the job. It gives them a break from some of the things that it's sometimes it's work. Even if you love
Yeah.
it, it's still work, and able to do things that feel
Yeah.
more like hobbies and pleasure, um, and can just fuel your soul and keep your mind going and keep creativity going. And having a mission like that, where you know exactly what it stands for, and you can decide the kind of things you do based on that mission, makes it actually easy.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great. I was talking to someone. I was talking about how agency culture is sort of like not the same anymore, but
Yeah,
something like that in your agency's culture really, really. And when you think about employee retention and things
yeah,
like that, those are intangibles that exist that goes beyond a paycheck. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So
It yeah. I mean, this agency is still here in the form it is because of the culture, because it created one
Mhm.
a long time ago that has weathered difficult times,
Mhm.
uh,
Mhm.
hasn't lost that soul.
And that's just so cool.
That's why I'm still here. It
So
still has.
Danny, you still
I'm still
there?
here.
Still there. It's great. So Danny, so I mean, people can tell, this is on YouTube. But if you're listening, Danny is very laid back. I've never seen him upset. He always cool, always under control. So Danny, I came up with a nickname for you, and I want to call you the Quiet Storm. You know what I mean? Because you just always under control, always cool, right? So I said, Danny, the Quiet Storm Robinson, and
All
because
right.
not a lot of people in these roles that you've had, they've been
Yeah.
super type A individuals,
Yeah.
very aggressive, very loud. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want the room. You know what I'm saying? Not like let me give the room to the other people. I mean, it's just a trait that you see that's been consistent, male or female,
Sure.
across all kind of jobs and stuff like that. But that's very unique about you, how you've been able to transcend in all these different roles with that really, quiet storm persona. Can you talk about how are you aware of that or how it has worked for you?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm aware. I'm well aware of it.
Okay.
And it's who I've always been. And look, some of those that sometimes I'm not talented enough to be an A-type personality yelling at people all the time. Um, but but there are some really talented people who are that, who are,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
True.
and
True.
I never believe you had to be that to be successful. You can be that and be successful. I would argue, not argue. Mike Hughes, the person who hired me, who was the chief creative officer when I got here, he was that. He was calm and loving and caring, and but you could also be demanding, and have high standards and expect the most out of people, being quiet. Um, I don't want to take up all the room, oxygen in the room. Um,
Hmm.
I want I I've been given the opportunity to be who I am and still have some level of success. Um, and I want people to be able to be whoever they are and be successful. And it's hard because you're creative. The louder voice often gets paid attention to, and it doesn't
Yeah.
mean
Yeah.
the idea is better, but the propensity to be enamored and interested in the thing that's coming at you the loudest and the hardest and the fastest is there. Um, but I want to, always believe you got to give space to people who barely say anything who are brilliant.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
you can be loud and bad, and you can be loud and good. That's same with that same with being quiet. You can be quiet and not good. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so for me, particularly at the leadership level, and it's mattered more at a leadership level that in the midst of chaos, which this business is, and stuff's always changing, and stuff's always coming at you, and deadlines, and it doesn't. I don't think it gives anybody any comfort if I'm in it with them, causing chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm not comparing myself to any of these people, but if you think about Captain Kirk or the captain of a ship,
Uh-huh.
uh, or whoever's leading the submarine, whoever's, if you look at the captains, the people in charge, when the ship's going down and things are going crazy, they have to be calm.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
calm helps you focus, and calm gets other
Mm-hmm.
people to believe everything's going to be okay, even when sometimes it isn't. But you at least inspire them to believe it and to. So I don't like adding to it, to the noise.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, I am this way because I want people to be that way. I don't like when people come in hot with hair on fire, their problems. So bring me some, come in calm and give me some answers.
Right.
Yeah,
I love that, Dan. I mean, that's unique, man. I mean, it's nice to see, and I'm quite sure everybody that works with you appreciate that. And
I'm
that's
sure they
another
also
thing
would love for me to light some dynamite and blow up shit every once in a while too. And sometimes I want to. It's just that's just not. It would be fake.
yeah. Well, that's not the quiet storm. The quiet storm gets things done, but you never hear a thing. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
love that. So, Danny, okay, so you the quiet storm. I
yeah.
got another thing
11 o'clock
too.
on WBLS.
Okay.
I'm the quiet
Quiet
storm.
storm.
Quiet storm.
Danny
Yeah.
Robinson, the quiet storm. Okay, now another little title for you too.
Oh,
Danny Robinson, the triple threat.
oh boy.
So what I did know, Dan, I swear, as long as I know you, I didn't know this.
Yeah,
So you're a triple threat because you're a DJ,
I was.
was a comedian,
I was.
and an artist.
I am.
Okay, so but I know I knew of
No.
none of that, Danny.
Well, that's because
No.
I don't tell anybody anything. Um, I don't. Um, yeah. So I DJ'd from age 16 through grad school, not on air DJ, but record
Hmm.
scratch and technique turntable, um, mixer, giant speakers back in the 80s. 10-foot speaker DJ at parties with me and two of my high school friends, Kenny and Barry. We were DJs, and we were in Hampton, Virginia, but we lived on Hampton's campus, so we got to see New Yorkers and people from Philly and Jersey come in and got a taste of what was going on in the music scene, and saw some things that people from Hampton had never seen. And we took that before we got to college. We took that in high school, and we were party through parties around the city, in the area for a long time, and got a reputation, and we were the place to come party. So I was a DJ. I was a mixer.
Okay.
So that was a thing. That was the thing I was in love with for a long time. And a comedian. So when I lived in New York or worked in New York, I took a class at the New School, stand up, just because I wanted to. And the final at the class was an audition at Stand Up New York, and I auditioned to the manager, and he said, "You want to come back, and you can come back every week and work." So for about 8 years, I did stand up every week
Hmm.
in New York, and then I had a home base in Norwalk, Connecticut, at a place called the Treehouse Cafe, and I would do open mic nights every week. At some point, I ended up opening for some comics who showed up, and so that was a thing I did for a while. I was a better writer than I sold a lot of jokes to some professional comedians. I was a better writer
Okay.
than I was a stand up. But I did that for 8 years.
Okay.
Artist was that I've been that since I was 6. I mean,
Hmm.
I was drawing when I should have been in math class. I should have been doing math. I was drawing. I was drawing. I drew all the time, and started painting. And had a great high school art teacher who was my mentor. And um, I stopped painting when I had kids, and I hadn't painted for like 30 years. And my wife said, "You need to start painting again." And about 10 years ago, I started up again, and I paint 8 hours a week, weekends and nights.
Wow. Oh, Danny.
Yeah.
You selling any work yet, or just keeping everything private?
Uh, I've given some to friends. I've had many offers to buy. I just met with a gallery owner last weekend because I'm thinking about my second act. Uh, I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start painting and selling soon enough.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
but
Cool.
not yet.
So
I've had offers. I've built up demand.
yeah,
I know how marketing works. I built up demand for my work, so when I tell them the price, it won't be a shock.
I got you. Well, I better get one, man, before you get too famous. I can afford one.
I have no idea if I'm ever going to be famous, but I'm going to charge a lot.
Okay, I got you. So, Danny, I started OGs and aunties a couple of things because I think just I believe like it's nice for the experience in the future to kind of to come together,
Yeah,
and as we think about this job market right now, I mean it's tough, right? For the young folks trying to break, it's pretty tough,
yeah.
and for the OGs and stuff that still want to play, it's sort of things that exist. That's sort of like barriers there as well. Anything you can share from your perspective that might help either one on either side of that kind of see, how they can kind of, keep their love for the game going on right now, even if things like seem a little tough.
Well, I mean, you use a word that I think is really important. If you really have to love this business to survive in it now, because it's so much harder than it was when you and I were
Mm-hmm.
coming up. Um, it's harder for a lot of reasons. It's harder because the clients can be harder. The demands on work have gone from long term to short term thinking to quarterly thinking. So the what has to work,
Mm-hmm.
everything has to work right now. Budgets are tight. There's some really smart marketers and really um, ambitious ones, um, but it's hard for them, so it's hard for us. The tenure for CMOs, CEOs are really short. So
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
a it's just harder because the way people the way we all have to think about our business now has just changed so much that it's um, the demands and the pressures are great. So if you don't really love it, if you're not in it because you love what it is, and you got to remember it's a business. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, if you want to be a writer or an artist, there are paths for that. Uh, if you want to write what you want and you want to be an artist and make what you want, you can do that. Um, but there's the business part of this that requires you sometimes to do things differently than you would if you were just doing it for yourself. And you have to love the process, and you have to understand that it is hard. Um, and if you're coming into it thinking it's something, you got to come in with your eyes open. If you think it's something else, it can be a shock, and it can be deflating. But if you love it and you're a student of it, and you like what this business is, and you like advertising, and you absorb it, and it's a I think it's going to be easier for those people who feel that way about it. Just can't just be
Mm-hmm.
a job because it's all consuming. It's all the time. It is never ever off. You can't not think about this job. Um, Particularly if you're creative. Everything you see, you're thinking, how can that be something? How can that be something I make? How can that be something? How can I incorporate this into an idea? So it's all you can't watch a movie, you can't watch a TV show, you can't listen to music without thinking of the application for your job. So if you should love it because it's going to be all consuming. If you do love it, it can be really rewarding.
Yeah.
If you're making stuff that gets out into the world, and you can tell your mom and your aunt, your sister, look at what I did.
I
Um,
did that.
and you can have pride in it. I think that's for the younger set. As you get old in this business, and this isn't new, this has always been a young person's business. Put that in
Yep.
quotes.
I was a young person's business. Yep.
And that's a bit of a tragedy because what you get after doing it for a while is incredibly invaluable to clients. But it's a young person's business still.
Yep. That's
Uh,
how it is, right?
it is, and I think that the thing to do as you are maturing in this business is to find opportunities to bring something that people who have not been in this business a long time can't bring because they don't know enough. Um, I mean, when I came to Martin, I said I'm going to make my focus is going to be on winning new business. I
Mm-hmm.
don't care if I make a lot of work at the beginning, the first 5 years. I want to be the
Mm-hmm.
person that they put on new business pitches that win new business because that's a superpower, and nobody's going to fire you if you
Bringing
can
in business.
successfully land, if you can successfully bring in business. So I was one of the two creative directors who pitched the Walmart business. When I won that, I said, okay, I got at least 2 years here. Nobody's going to say anything to me for 2 years, at least, because this is the biggest account in the country, and I helped win. So I have a thing now.
Okay.
I think people have to find their thing. You know, what are
Mm-hmm.
you gonna bring? What's the value you're gonna bring to the agency that not everybody can bring? I think it's easier to find that when you've been doing it for a while. Everybody should
Mm-hmm.
find their
Mm-hmm. Good
thing, but
point.
yeah,
Yeah. That's a very good point, Danny. It's interesting too that the industry itself, it's like we have like IPG and Omnicom. You guys are emerging. It's just a lot of we maybe three holding companies
yep,
sort of bring everybody together where we're losing those independent agencies too, right? So just the industry, that industry itself is just evolving and changing,
yeah, it is.
um,
And of course, but of
which is
course it is. Everything does. Everything changes.
yeah,
Everything evolves. Um, there's no way this industry can be what it was 20 years ago. It wouldn't work. But
yeah,
then you see the rise of the independent agencies like Mischief uh,
yeah.
and High Dive, and you see these successful companies. You go, well, that's a result of these mergers and acquisitions, and people are like, nah, I'm gonna go try this thing on my own then.
Hmm.
And I think we're going to see more of that as this consolidation happens. I think more people are going to give it a shot, just see if they can do it independent of the holding companies, and some will work, and some will be successful, and some
Yeah.
won't. Um, but I think that's going to be one of the consequences of what's going
But
on.
Danny, what you just said is that was interesting because if you go back in the day, a lot of creatives, some of those bigger agencies, it wasn't holding companies, but the
Right.
agencies were big.
Yeah.
A lot of them said, "I'm out of this big agency. I'm going to go start my own
Sure.
thing, whether it's Wiley Kennedy's or the Fallons, or you know what I mean." So
Eric
that's
Kraft
a really good.
and
Yep.
Droga, and yeah, I mean, so
Kroger.
those are some
Yeah,
of the best
yeah,
agencies in the country.
yeah.
Um,
So it's just sort of like concurrence.
and
Yeah,
that's some people do it just because they want to. They want to own their own business. I think some it's a result of changes that affect them, and they just make a decision to do something different. And I think
yeah.
that's good for the industry. That's good uh, that people have alternatives to working at a holding company. Uh,
Okay.
I like what we have here at Martin. I like that we are independently minded. We certainly are part of a holding company,
Hmm.
but our spirit is still one of independence, and um, work really hard to hold on to that spirit as tightly as we can as things change.
Hold on to it, man, because
Hold on tight.
it's not. Yeah, hold tight. Hold on to that sucker tight, Danny.
Yes, sir.
So Danny, God, man, you're just so well versed in so many different disciplines,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
sure.
you've learned
I know a
yeah,
little about a lot. I don't know a lot about
a
anything.
lot. But even the things I didn't know about the DJ, for 8 years, the comedian for 8 years. You've learned, and then in just your role, CCO, CEO, CMO, all of those things. You've learned a lot. You've learned a
Yep.
lot. So as you put all that together, and I always ask my guests this, and I think it's pretty interesting. you learn so much, but when you got there, what did you have to unlearn? You know what I mean? It's like, we spend all this time, but like we got to learn, we got to climb, we got to learn.
Yeah.
Then sometimes you see, I got to throw these things off the ship. Is anything in
Yeah, probably a lot. Um, at some point, and I think I figured it out now. Finally, um, I used to get, no matter where I worked, I would get the same. No matter what kind of review I got, I would get the same one comment, and that's that you take on more than you can do. And I would hear it, but I'd never understand it. Um, I think what they were saying is you are not delivering on everything you're taking on. Nobody ever said it that way. I think that's what they're saying. They weren't just saying you're taking on a lot. They're saying you're taking on more than you can successfully execute. And I may have over rotated with all that feedback because what I've unlearned um, is you don't need to show that you can do everything. At some point, you need to learn how to delegate.
hmm
And you're always taught raise your hand for everything, and black people are always taught work twice as hard because you have to.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and that's probably what I was doing, but it can be to your detriment if you're overcommitting and not delivering, because then it just looks like you're not good at your job. I've learned to take on what I can take on, and I've learned to delegate the things that I shouldn't have to do or don't want to do or not don't want to do. There are people better than I am at things, and if I'm a manager of those people, they should have those things to do. And there are people who need to learn
hmm
how to do things, and just because I know I'm an only child, and I was raised to just do what I needed to do, and if I could do it, I wouldn't ask anybody to help me do it. Just do it
hmm
yourself.
hmm
And I grew up believing if I can do it, I'll do it myself. And what I had to unlearn was to be successful at a certain level. There's too much to do for me to do it all, uh, and to be okay with saying you do that,
hmm
and
hmm
this is for you to do, and not worry that I'm not doing anything, that I've given everything to everybody else to do, because there's still
Uh-huh.
enough to do. But that has mattered. That has made me so much better at my job that um, and why hire really good people to be around me and to help me if I'm not giving them things to shine. So yeah, took me I don't know, took me 40 years to figure that out.
Hey, as long as you got there, man, right?
It's really freeing. I'm telling you, when you can just say, all right, these here, that's for you and that's for you and this is for me. It's really good. You can focus and you can get shit done, and those people also can focus and get shit done and improve themselves and get experience and all of that stuff. So yeah, that was that was absolutely the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, okay. Well, Danny, well, my last question was going to like ask you so that you can be an official OG and auntie
Oh,
later on. It's like going to be your second act. So, but you touched on that. You want to be an artist. So,
I know what
you
that
know,
I know I got it. That's absolutely what I want to do next. I'm when I'm not working, I'm doing that, and when I'm it's mostly what I'm thinking about when I'm not on the job. So it's got to be the calling,
I'll be the caller.
and it'll
Okay.
either be for me or it'll be for profit. But either way, I'm gonna. It's a place. It's a space I want to be in, sitting, painting,
Cool. All right.
bottle
Well,
of wine,
Danny,
write music,
bottle of wine, music,
quiet storm,
quiet storm, painting.
Smokey Robinson,
Can't
painting. Yeah,
wait.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Hey Danny, hey man, it's been an honor and a pleasure to speak with you. And thanks for I know you're a busy man. And, you got so many hats, but thanks for taking the time, man. This has been really great to talk to you. Once again, I've learned all these things about you that I didn't know, but it's all been fantastic. And I'm just really proud of you, what you've done. I've seen your career just take off, man, and do so well. So I'm just so happy for you. So honored to see you doing great.
Thank you, brother. Uh, I will forever thank you for getting me through the beginning of Vigilante, where I was a deer in the headlights. Um, but it was the best time of my and best time of my one of the best times of my career. And I thank you for making sure I made it out the other side. So thank you very much.
Okay.
And thanks for
Okay.
having me.
Okay. Take care. All right,
All right.
Danny.
Take care, Lewis.
Take care.